of tzaddikim, the vision of tzaddikim. And I want to finish with one final little story. Tonight is my uncle, my paternal Uncle Leibel's yahrzeit. My father's younger brother. My Uncle Leibel was an extraordinary person by every stretch of imagination. He was a Torah genius, extraordinary Torah genius. And not only was he brilliant, but he was very studious. He was a very, very Hasidic Yid, a big makusha, very devoted, dedicated to the Rebbe. My uncle once told me that after he got married, when he went into the kollel, the Rebbe said to him that he should learn Torah very diligently. Very diligently. He was in the kollel for a year and a half. Very diligently. He was married in the month of Tevet in the year 1971. And you'll see in the summer of 1973, that's when the Rebbe tapped him for a very special mission. So anyway, the Rebbe said to him, you should learn mitten Seder, Fahren Seder, and Nochen Seder. You should make sure to be studying during the time, a lot of time for study, prior to the allotted time, and after the allotted time. Then the Rebbe said to him, you should learn while you eat, before you eat, and after you eat. Then the Rebbe said you should learn in the middle of your sleep, the Rebbe said to him, before you go to sleep, and after you wake up. Basically, the Rebbe was using, I guess, euphemism, telling you should be studying a lot of Torah. And my Uncle Leibel was this extraordinary, brilliant mind. Incredible grasp of concepts, and amazing depth and clarity. Brilliant. He knew so much. And he always told me he thought always he was going to be a Rosh Hashiva, Rav, be involved in some kind of something that requires Torah study and clarity in Torah, either teaching Torah or passing halachas. But he never expected really to be like an activist, a shlichus. That was never his thing. The Rebbe called my uncle suddenly, middle of as they say, a regular Wednesday, to his study. I don't remember the date that it was. It eludes me right now, the day. I think it was in the month of Tammuz. And the Rebbe said to him, would you consider moving to Tzfat on Shlichut? Would you consider moving to the city? Tzfat was a hovel. It was a city in the north of Israel. It was a dilapidated city. It was not the city that it is today. The infrastructure was very, very minimal. There were very few modern buildings there. It was not the modern bustling city it is now. My Uncle Leibel didn't even bat an eyelash. The Rebbe asked him if he'll move to Tzfat. He said, if that's what the Rebbe wants, of course he's going to do it. So the Rebbe said to him, it's not only your decision, you have a wife, no? So the Rebbe said, go outside to the office, call your wife, and see if she agrees, and then come back in. Which is what he did. Called his wife, and my aunt heard that the Rebbe wants him to go on Shlichus without a hesitation. My aunt said, wherever the Rebbe wants us to go, we're ready to go. It's not even a question. My uncle went back into the Rebbe's study. There was a very interesting Yechidus. There's many, many interesting things that happened at that Yechidus. Amongst them, I'm not sharing all the details, but amongst them, the Rebbe told my uncle that it was very important that he be in Tzfat for Hey Av, which is the yahrzeit of the Arizal. Very important, he should be there already in Tzfat. But it would take time. My uncle asked, what about traveling in the 9 days? Because he might just come right there. The Rebbe said that if he packs his bags before, it's not a problem. It's as if the journey began. And the Rebbe told him he should pack his bags immediately, which he did promptly. The Rebbe said, when you pack your bags, the first thing you pack is your talis and film. And my uncle told me that he went home, he put all of his clothes into suitcases, his talis and film, of course, first. And every day he would take his talis and film out and put it back inside. And he would wear his clothes, they would do the laundry and put everything back. He lived in suitcases. Till they left to Israel, he lived on suitcases. And with many other interesting hiras, one of the things that Rebbe said to him is that there's a shul in Tzfat that Chabad Hasidim built in the 1860s, 1870s, and it was a dump. This is 100 years later. The Rebbe said that they should make sure that to clean up and refurbish the shul, there should be a minyan davening there before the high holidays. The high holidays, there should be a minyan davening there. Anyway, a number of other interesting instructions, and then the Rebbe gave my uncle a Tanya. which the Maskiris told my uncle is the Tanya the Rebbe uses every single day. And there were certain psukim written inside the Tanya, and the Rebbe's name was written there. Anyway, it's a long story. The Maskiris took the Tanya and went back to the Rebbe. I don't want to go into it. Bottom line is the Rebbe was really empowered my uncle in a very extraordinary way, and he clearly was investing a lot in this mission. Those who know the history of the Yom Kippur War know that the Syrians all but overran Tzfat. They were on the way to overrun northern Israel. Until today, nobody really knows with clarity why the Syrians didn't capture Tzfat, and for that part, all of northern Israel. There was a Syrian general that was court-martialed and jailed. And their official response was they couldn't believe that the Israelis were so unprepared. They just couldn't believe it. And they were convinced that there was a trap. And because of this, they were delaying, even though the Egyptians were surging across the Bar-Lev line. And it was terrible in the south. In the north, it was not nearly as bad as it could have been. And of course, in the end, our forces, Israeli forces, recaptured the north of Eretz Yisrael. And they recaptured even Hermon. I actually have another uncle who was stationed there, who was in Syria. That's another story in and of itself. Somebody asked the Rebbe, on the night of Yom Kippur, the Rebbe walked, he remained in Shul after davening, said the whole Tehillim. And then after he went next door to the library, he placed his foot on a chair and he placed his head like this on his foot, and he remained like that in his talus and kippled the entire night. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the Rebbe was still standing like this in deep meditation. Now, of course, nobody knew in New York that the war was going to break out or that it had broken out, but by 10 o'clock in the morning, they knew already, and it was well after 10 o'clock when davening would start, where the Rebbe's secretary like kind of apologized and tapped him on the shoulder to tell him that everybody's waiting in Shul. And the Rebbe was very, very involved on many levels in the Yom Kippur War. Many, many levels. At that time, Ariel Sharon already had met the Rebbe, he was in touch with the Rebbe, and there was conversations going on from the field telephones. The Rebbe was very, very involved. Some of the stories are known, they've been documented in incredible films done by Jen called Faithful and Fortified. Some of the stories will still yet come out, aren't even known yet. Somebody asked the Rebbe, what are you doing for the war effort? What are you doing to protect the people in Israel? And the Rebbe said, I already dispatched my general to Tzfat. And as if to say that the starting of the Shlichus in Tzfat was kind of the spiritual protection that the Rebbe invested. And of course, we know miraculously Tzfat was not overrun, and all of northern Israel was protected by the brachos that were emanating out of Tzfat. And it seems pretty clear that the Rebbe kind of entrusted my uncle with this mission, and that he sent him and he said, make sure you're davening with a minyan in the Tzemach Tzedek Shul, that this brought about a bracha for the people in Israel, and especially in the north, to save them from the hands of the murderous Syrians. So my uncle unfortunately was killed in a car crash. He left Israel my uncle would drive a lot in Eretz Yisrael. He was very involved in the activities across Eretz Yisrael, not only in Tzfat, especially as this time went on, he became more and more involved. And the roads are very bad. Then it was even worse. He once wrote to the Rebbe that he wants a bracha for safe driving, because there's so many accidents on the road. So the Rebbe wrote to him, Nis derech tzleicha be'eretz Yisrael. You should have safe driving in Israel. My uncle left Israel for just 24 hours because there was a certain shliach in Minsk that he helped, and he was very instrumental in helping the shliach develop infrastructure, Chabad infrastructure there in Minsk. And the shliach pleaded with my uncle to come to participate in the Chanukah Sabayis, in the opening that was going to take place, if my memory doesn't fail me, on Lag BaOmer. And my uncle flew on, I think it actually was a Saturday night, I think he flew from Israel. Rabbi Lau's son was his older son, not the chief rabbi today, his older brother was also supposed to be on that plane. He was also flying, and the flight was overbooked, but because my uncle had so many frequent flyer miles, they bumped somebody and they put him on the plane. Rabbi Lau's son didn't make it on the plane. And he was picked up from the airport in Moscow on his drive out to Minsk, and tragically, on the road, and the amazing thing is that in the stretch of road where this happened, it's the closest highway to the city of Lubavitch. So there was a terrible accident. Either a truck driver was drunk or fell asleep, who knows, can't know from Russia really. and my uncle tragically was killed on the spot. And that was on the 16th day of Iyar, which is tonight and tomorrow. And until they were able to bring his body to Eretz Yisrael, it took a little while. And actually, he was buried on Lag BaOmer, on the evening of Lag BaOmer in Sfat, in the same cemetery as the Rebbe's brother, Yisrael Leib. So anyway, these are some of the stories I wanted to share with you. I think the important thing for us maybe to take from all these stories is the